Okay. Mark chapter 4 and verse 35. It says, on the same day when evening had come, he said to them, let us cross over to the other side. Now when they had left the multitude, they took him along in the boat as he was, and the other little boats were also with him. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat so that it was already filling. But he was in the stern, asleep on a pillow, and they awoke him and said to him, Teacher, do you not care we are perishing? Then he arose and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. But he said to them, Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith? And they feared exceedingly and said to one another, Who can this be that even the wind and the sea obey him?
One second. Okay, so when they say get across from the other side, they're going from the Jewish side of Galilee over there, where Jesus is, all his ministry is based, and they're getting in a boat, and they're coming to the side of the Gentiles, the southwest side. That is a journey of approximately 14 kilometers on the water. And when it says a great storm arose, obviously the Bible was not written in English. In the Greek, it uses the word seismos. Seismos is where we get seismology and earthquakes from. It could be there was a great, even an earthquake going on in this thing, in the water, and he stills it. And when they come over this, you're going to read in a second, that they come over to the land of the Gerasenes or the Gadarenes. It's different words. Gadara is the Gadarenes. That is the town, not this one here, Hippos. The one beyond it is Gadara. And Gerasenes was a general term for people from the Decapolis, because their greatest city was Gerasa, off in eastern Jordan. So it's a general term. There's no real difference between them. Okay, if you hear different versions, it doesn't make any difference. After you, sir.
Chapter 5?
Chapter 5, yeah.
Okay. Then they came to the other side of the sea, to the country of the Gadarenes. And when they had come out of the boat, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no one could bind him, not even the chains, because he had often been bound with shackles and chains, and the chains had been pulled apart by him, and the shackles broken in pieces. Neither could anyone tame him. And always, night and day, he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying out and cutting himself with stones. But when he saw Jesus from afar off, he ran and worshipped him. And he cried out with a loud voice and said, What have I to do with you, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I implore you by God that you do not torment me. For he said to him, Come out of the man, unclean spirit. Then he asked him, What is your name? And he answered, saying, My name is Legion, for we are many. And he begged him earnestly that he would not send him out of the country. Now a large herd of swine was feeding there near the mountains. And all the demons begged him, saying, Send us to the swine, that we may enter them. And at once Jesus gave them permission. Then the unclean spirits went out and entered the swine. There were about 2,000. And the herd ran violently down the steep place into the sea and drowned in the sea.
Take a break. I want you to visualize this. He's coming out of the tombs. Now, people don't just bury like in the earth here. Bury in caves, if you've got caves available. So look over there, on that piece of rock sticking out, one of the few exposures of limestone in the area right behind you. You can see there are caves on the left-hand side behind the second person layer. There are 7 or 5 caves in there. That could be burial. Number 2. Swine. Remember that until 1970, that line up there with the yellow danger mines sign, with the barbed wire, that hilltop came straight down to here. It was moved in the middle to make this road in 1970. But previously the mountain continued from there down to here and straight down into the sea. Not 400 yards flat area, straight into the sea. Number 3, over there you can see a meadow between 2 hills, and it's the same on this side. There's 3 of them, and where you've got the 2 hills come together in the middle, even in the summer, there's a line of dark green vegetation, and it's usually reeds and things like that. It's like thick grasses, and the swine go berserk for eating the roots of them. It's full of, I don't know, sap or something. They really like that. So they would be on this mountain. Now think 2,000 swine. How many people had 2,000 swine? First of all, only the Gentiles had swine. The Jews didn't keep swine. But 2,000? That's an enormous number of swine. So probably you had maybe 40 or 50 herders from the nearest town, each one with 30 or 40 swine of his own, feeding them on the hills round here. Okay, the first thing you've got to know is that Jesus, to speak to this man, would not be speaking Hebrew. This guy wouldn't speak a word of Hebrew. He'd be speaking Greek. How does he know Greek? Well, he's working for 18 years probably with his father in Sepphoris building, and that included building for the Greeks as well as the Jews. He would have learned the Greek. He uses Greek frequently. He uses the word hypocrite, which means an actor in the Greek theatre. He even quotes from Aesop's fables in the Gospels. So he knew Greek. He had a way of communicating with these people. Let's think about this Gentile. The Jewish, what's going on here is not so much to impress this man with all his wild whatever, but to impress the disciples who are in the boat, who are going to tell everyone else exactly what Jesus is doing here. So they see a Gentile. To them that means this man is already unclean. He's not keeping all different laws of Leviticus. He could be having relations with people that are forbidden at the wrong times. Everything could be wrong. So they just consider him unclean. Number two, he's living in the tombs. There is no greater uncleanliness than coming into contact with dead bodies. And number three, he is filled with unclean spirits. 2,000 of them. So this man is 3 times unclean. And one of those times, 2,000 times over. Can swine swim? Yes. Not very well, but they can swim. And they're running down the steep bank. It tells us in the story, running down the steep bank into the sea, into the lake, and drowning. This is the only place on the whole eastern shore where the mountain goes down to the sea. Therefore, this has to be the place. Nothing else matches the gospel. Why are they drowning? They are drowning in the weight of their uncleanliness. He is cleansing these swine in the same way he has cleansed this Gentile, to show what is going to happen later in Acts 12 with Peter, when he has to understand that if God has decided a man is a good man, he's praying to him and giving alms, that he is not unclean, and he must bring him into the church. And that's Cornelius. Let's continue a little bit.
Verse 14. Now those who fed the swine fled, and they told it in the city and in the country, and they went out to see what it was that had happened. Then they came to Jesus and saw the one who had been demon-possessed and had a legion sitting and clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. And those who saw it told them how it happened to them who had been demon-possessed and about the swine. Then they began to plead with him to depart from their region. And when he got into the boat, he who had been demon-possessed begged him that he might be with him. However, Jesus did not permit him, but said to him, Go to your friends and tell them what great things the Lord has done for you, and how he has compassion on you. And he departed and began to proclaim in Decapolis all that Jesus had done for him, and all marveled.
Okay. What I want to do with this now is to do a little bit of Bible study to do with what's happening here in the way Jews do it. And that's to follow sequences. Not to just take this and say, let's what we're going to take a lesson from that, but what is going on here as a sequence. So all of this takes place. It's in Mark 4:5, it's in Matthew 8, it's in Luke 8. It's in the early days of Jesus' public ministry in Galilee. When does he next come back to these shores? If you look at it carefully, it's about 18 months later in his ministry, and that is in Mark 7, 31 through to Mark 8:10. Matthew 15, 29 to 39. It's not covered in Luke. And when he comes here, 4,000 Gentiles have gathered to see him. How? How does suddenly, he's come across the side of the lake from the other side, how do 4,000 Gentiles come to listen to this Jewish teacher?
By hearing?
From who? The man,
possessed
exactly,
man.
because Jesus said to him, when he wanted to go with Jesus, he said, no, go and tell your people what God has done for you. And he has gone and proclaimed the gospel in the Decapolis, probably in the city of Hippos, that's half a mile from here. And when Jesus is coming back, he's brought 4,000 people to hear him. This man is really the first apostle to the Gentiles, not Peter. This is decades before Peter goes to Cornelius. This is while Jesus is still in his ministry. And Jesus feeds those 4,000 people sitting on a hillside with no food. How much is left over? 7 baskets. Those Greeks do not understand what that means. The disciples with Jesus totally understand what that means, or should. And I'll take this by going to you from Deuteronomy 7:1. Remember, the Jews know this stuff off by heart. 7, bum, bum, that means this, that, and the other. Okay, he's with Gentiles. So let's go to Deuteronomy 7 and just listen to this. When the Lord your God brings you into the land that you are entering to take possession of it, and clears away many nations before you, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Jews have a concept of not having studied this and learned it off by heart. That doesn't matter if they call themselves Greeks or whatever they call themselves, they are based on 7 Gentile nations in the land of Israel. And Jesus is saying to his disciples, the Greeks don't understand this, I can feed the Gentiles too. Shortly before this, in each of these Gospels where this story appears, he's on the Jewish side of the lake. And there he feeds 5,000. How many baskets does he leave over there? 12. What's he saying? I can feed all the tribe of Israel as well. Do the disciples get it? No. Go to Matthew 16. This is quite funny because everyone thinks of Caesar and Philippines in Matthew 16, but this is earlier. It's also mentioned in Mark 8, 18 to 21, but I'll read it from, it's 3 verses, I'll read it from Matthew 16. From 5. When the disciples reached the other side, they'd forgotten to bring any bread. Jesus said to them, watch and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees. They began discussing it amongst themselves, saying, we brought no bread. But Jesus, aware of this, said, oh, you of little faith, why are you discussing among yourselves the fact you've got no bread? Do you not perceive? Do you not remember the 5 loaves for the 5,000 and how many baskets you gathered? Or the 7 loaves for the 4,000 and how many baskets you gathered? How is it that you fail to understand that I did not speak about bread? Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Then they understood that he did not tell them to beware of the leaven of bread, but of the teaching of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. In other words, they don't get it, as usual. And he has to explain it to them. But that's exactly what it's about. He's saying I can give spiritual food to the 7 Gentile nations in the land of Israel. And I can give spiritual food to the 12 tribes of Israel in the land of Israel. That's what he's saying. And that's what they understand of it. But we, reading this 20 centuries later, try and understand this in our 21st century lens. And it's very difficult because we don't make the connections. Which is why I spend half my life trying to search for them. Because there's got to be something more in there that we're missing all the time. Okay, that's my thing. Yeah, that's basically it. So I think this site is great because it's authentic. And the topography, the geography is in the text. It can't be anywhere else. There is nowhere else where there's a mountain next to the water. Nowhere else with caves next to it. We're in the spot. Where were the people gathered? Probably on like a basin around here. Down there. They'll probably
That's
be
where
up
the
here.
caves are. Oh, I almost tripped. So where those minefields are, that is or yellow papers, yellow signs with the fencing. That all it used to go from up there all the way across. They cut here, move this area up so they can make a road. But from up there, coming straight across, went straight across, and right down into the sea. That's where the pigs ran off and ran into the sea. Wow, right? All of this just comes to life.